We are going to delve a little bit deeper into the resource of rest and talk about some ways that you can incorporate this into your life and into your schedule, and talk about how important it is for you to prioritize your rest, how that affects your body, your mind, your emotions, your spirit. In the Bible, we talk a lot about rest and resting in the Lord, but also taking one day a week for rest, just to take it off, to worship, to connect in our relationships, to, in America, in the Christian world, we go to church and connect with people, encourage one another, and lift each other up, and just spend the day kind of in reflection. And it's important, whether you're a Christian or not, whether you go to church or not, to have one day a week, because we were designed, our bodies were designed with limitations. And so they need those times of refreshing. The Sabbath is not the only thing that the Bible speaks of, though. Jesus said when he was teaching on earth, he said, "Are there not 12 hours in a day?" He talked about 12 hours of day. And, back in those days and times when they didn't have electricity, they would have to use candlelight. So their lives were really centered around the rhythm of the earth, like how the earth has been designed. They would work for, 12 hours, either, outside the home or inside the home, do that work. And then as the sun went down, they would have to, kind of find activities to do that did not require as much light. So, we need to be keeping track and keeping an eye on ourselves daily as far as how much rest we're giving our bodies, how much downtime we're allowing, how much space and margin we're working into our schedules, because that is very crucial to our health. If we do not rest, if we do not take the time to prioritize rest, then our bodies will take it for us, right? That's when we get sick. That's when we get chronic illnesses. That's when we get diseases that spread throughout our body because we're not taking care of them properly. That's when we get burnt out. Rest is one of the things that helps us not to just give up on life in general. We need times that are enjoyable, that are just for letting our body be and exist instead of, do some kind of activity. Rest reduces our stress. It helps us to process things. It gives us space to work through problems and issues. It improves our health and boosts our immune system. Because our bodies are made for rest, we need that time to let our body do its job. And instead of, utilizing energy and utilizing adrenaline and cortisol and all of that, let the body rest from those things. It improves our productivity and creativity, because we are able to, like I said, create that space and that downtime for our brains to readjust and calibrate and reprioritize things. Rest also reconnects us not only to our most important relationships, but to our priorities, the things in life that we have determined are important to us, that we want to spend more time on, and keeps us from spending and wasting time on things that are not helping us. So what if you take a day off, a day of rest? And I truly have seen this do so much for people in their lives when they start to prioritize rest, when they start to put it on their calendar, when they start to say, I'm taking this day every week and that day is going to be my rest day. We start to see changes in our bodies, in our minds, in our emotions, and even in our spirit. So I would suggest that the first thing that we do with that day is to take some time for reflection and introspection, to review the days the days of the week before. If you're doing this every week, it's a good time to just look back and look at what worked, what didn't, what problems and issues have you been just buzzing there in the back of your mind that you haven't had time to work through and think about. It's a great time to to take time for the people you love the most. You know, a lot of times we get caught up in life, and our busyness affects every area of our life. I think your day off is a really good time to sit back and reflect on the people you love the most, the people who have contributed to your life. Also to reflect on the people who aren't contributing to your life. We'll talk a little bit later about relationships and the importance of those and how to keep those healthy as well. Because people are a resource and relationships are a resource. We've already talked about setting aside a day every single week. And so this means marking it on your calendar. This means putting, a boundary around that day and making it about rest. Because if you don't set aside and establish that as a day and intentionally make it about rest, your work will seep into it. People will want you to do things. People will call you, especially when they find out that you have the day off. They will want to fill that day with what, the ideas that they have for you. And so this is a great time to learn, how to establish some boundaries and how to say some no's for your better yes. And rest is a good enough reason to say no. That is a good enough reason. As a matter of fact, it's a very healthy reason. We want to make sure we set aside that day, and we want to make sure that we plan what's going to go on in that day. We need to have some plans, not plans that are work related, plans that are enjoyment related, rest related. And sometimes this plan might be stay in my pajamas all day and just hang out, in the bed, read, binge, Netflix, whatever it is. I wouldn't suggest that be every rest day. But we need to have some plans ahead of time of what we want to do with that day. It might be go out for a hike, go on a walk. It might be get together with a friend. It might be take a long bath. It might, there's just a ton of things that we can put into that day. I'm sure you have a list of things. And if you don't, I would suggest you make a list of things that you enjoy. If you don't know of any things that you enjoy outside of work. So if you don't know what you enjoy, go find out. Go try out some new things. We're going to talk about creativity a little bit later too, because that's a resource, and trying new things and finding out what you enjoy and what helps you relax. So make a plan for that day. And then once you've made your plan, make preparations ahead of time. So you don't have to cook meals, make your meals or your plans for meals ahead of time. Have your favorite foods in the house. Plan what you're going to eat that day or drink. And so you have those things ahead of time in the house and can enjoy them and don't have to go work to get them. Make all the decisions ahead of time so that day of rest, you are being able to rest from your decisions and just enjoy the day. So keep an unhurried pace throughout that entire day. Whatever you do that day, just make it unhurried. I tend to be a mental perfectionist. And so if you tell me to plan something, I'm going to be like, okay, we're going to do this, and this. And then if I'm not hitting those marks, I'm like, oh, I failed, then I feel like a failure. So you want to be flexible with that day. You want to make sure that you tell yourself over and over and over, we are not in a hurry. Not just in that day, but talking about you need about 4 hours of margin in each day that you have during the week. And I say 4 hours because, you want to be able to sleep 8 hours. You want to get a good 8 hours sleep. And if you need to work 12 hours, and that's, if you work outside the home, in the office, whatever, you do work from home, that's 8-9 hours of that. And then that gives you 2 or 3 hours to work at home. And I'm not saying, you'll be able to perfectly do this. And I know sometimes the season of our life that we're in that makes it harder for us to figure out that margin. But you need that margin in your life. You need to give yourself grace up to 4 hours a day of those should be, just for healthy living. that should be 4 hours to do restful, enjoyable, recalibrating activities. And you can get your family to participate in that with you. Now, can you do that if you're running around like a crazy person trying to get, 3 kids to 3 different activities in one night? Probably not. You have to decide what's going to be your priorities. And you have to look at if your health and your rest and your family are suffering because of your schedule. To me, it's just so much more important to prioritize that rest than to prioritize, outside activities. Not only that, but in that rest, you can find loving presence with each other, enjoying rest together. And that's really important for families and for connection and for the growth and development of people. What supplies do you need for rest? You can determine your own supplies. I like to have, it helps me to be restful and find enjoyment when I have some favorite foods around, some favorite drinks. And that doesn't necessarily have to be things that aren't healthy. It doesn't have to be junk food. It doesn't have to be sugar. It doesn't have to be any of those things. It could be just a favorite meal that you enjoy that's super healthy. It could be a favorite salad. It could be a favorite cup of tea, but just have those things that make life enjoyable for you around on the days that you're resting. Projects or activities that you enjoy, have those prepared ahead of time. I know I have some embroidery things that I'm working on right now. I have an embroidery project. I also have like coloring books and crayons, little games, puzzles that I can do if I, get in the mood. Just different things that you can do. Like you could have a fun project prepared and just do that all day. And it's, that may seem like work doing a project, but for some people that's enjoyable and restful. Like our ways of resting are different from person to person. Like my idea of rest is, chilling in my, in comfy clothes and lounging and, a lot of reading, a lot of like low energy activities. But my husband's idea of rest is going out into the yard and doing yard work and working out in the landscape and in nature. He loves that kind of stuff. And so people would look at that and be like, oh, he's working, but he's not. He's resting. That's restful for him. So it's different for all of us. Not that you should say that work is rest, because I know a lot of people try to find that loophole where they're like, well, I love working. You're a workaholic. That's not rest. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about doing something totally different from what your average day looks like. Setting all of that aside and letting it go for a day or for a few hours during your day. So the last supply that I have here is you need reminders around you that work is not on your agenda for that day. For that rest day, work needs to be set aside. And you don't need to try to get things accomplished or even to be effective. You just need that day to just be who God created you to be and who you're designed to be.